Hi, everybody. Welcome to Life After Death and Beyond with James Van Prague and me, Kellee White. But today, James is in Paris with Janelle Campbell, and I'm with my bestie, Dr. Shirley Impellizzeri. Hi, Shirley.
Hi, it's so good to see you.
Oh, it's great to see you. And for people who don't know, may I tell them about you?
Absolutely.
People that don't know who Shirley is. Now, Shirley is also a dear friend with James. So he was thrilled that you were going to be on tonight.
I am filling some big shoes tonight.
Yes, you are, ma'am. Yes, you are. Because James quotes you a lot.
And I quote him a lot too.
I know. It's amazing. Oh. So Shirley is a psychologist who specializes in somatic experience, for one thing, and trauma. Mm-hmm. And you also specialize in attachment theory.
Yeah.
And Shirley was my mother's, my mother was Shirley's, how do I say that? My mother was your mentor.
Yeah.
My mother was a psychologist and she was Shirley's mentor. Mm-hmm. And then Shirley became my mentor and she was my supervisor. So for years while I was getting my license to practice. So it was wonderful.
Mom, because I'm so grateful to her.
Oh, yeah. She taught us both a lot, didn't she?
Yeah, she sure did.
Yeah. And then for years, Shirley and I had a show called Both Sides Now. And then you left and James came on. And then we called it Both Sides Now and Beyond. And then from there, James, we did Life After Death and Beyond. So here we are, kind of full circle, Cheryl.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. And I know that James had a greeting for us today, right? Didn't he, Renee? From Paris. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. It's James and Janelle, my friend Janelle.
Hi.
And we're here in Paris.
Beautiful Paris.
Beautiful Paris. Look around, see everything. We'll see things. And there's the Notre Dame.
Here we are.
The renovation. So they're renovating the Notre Dame Cathedral. And it's pretty amazing because it's a big change. And I know you're talking all today about changes, and what do you think about change, Janelle?
Well, some of us are a little bit stubborn at times, and being the Taurian female that I am, I can be a bit stuck. But I've learned over the years, the more you change or just ride with it, the more expansion that comes with it.
Yeah, the more you grow. Change is necessary.
Yeah. It's weird. It's a weird thing.
Because you got to let go.
Yeah,
you got to let go to what's going to be available to you. You don't know what's available to you. Change. So.
And you don't trust it at the time, do you?
No. But great things happen with change. So try to get out of your mindset and explore something brand new. Yeah. Like Kellee. Yeah. So we'll see you next time, kids. Good luck. Bye, Kellee. Bye, Shirley.
Oh my God, it's so fun.
We've been to Europe with them, and they're a lot of fun.
They're so much fun. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love being with Janelle and James. It's always so much fun. I thought today, Shirley, we're going to talk about spiritual techniques and somatic healing techniques. I thought what we would start with is this is an emotionally dysregulating time that we're in.
Yeah.
These are just ups and downs all over the place. Yeah. And I was wondering if you could tell everybody what is it to be dysregulated? What does that mean?
Well, to be dysregulated just means that your nervous system is not in a homeostatic state, which for some people can be up here, for some people can be here, for some people can be down here. But it basically means that your, we can call it anxiety, or we can call it, that your heart is beating faster than normal. I mean, we can just really summarize it by that. And when you also look at emotions, emotions are about the nervous system getting overwhelmed. That's all an emotion is. Oh. Whether depression, underwhelmed, or anxiety, excitement, overwhelmed. And so if you view it that, because we have, unfortunately in our society, we talk about being too emotional, or that emotions are a problem, or we're too sensitive. And that's just how our nervous system is built. Yeah. Now we can learn tools to help ourselves regulate, which I can show you. I'll show a few in this on this show. But all it is my nervous system is overwhelmed. That's it.
Yeah. Wow. And so how does that play with fight, flight, or freeze? How does that play a part in this?
Well, fight or flight means that anytime something comes at me that feels overwhelming, that overwhelms my nervous system, the primitive part of the brain will immediately go into fight or flight because it's crossed my boundaries. So it can be words when someone is yelling. That can trigger the fight or flight. It could be, of course, somebody coming at you. And if we didn't have the ability to fight back, the species wouldn't have survived. So it really is, that fight is life force energy. When we can't fight back, and so fight or flight, we either fight back or we take off running, but both of them are action.
Okay.
When we can't do that, like an unfortunate little kid, we go into freeze. And that means we just shut everything down. However, inside everything is activated. So it's almost like pressing the gas and the brake at the same time.
And we could say that for a lot of people right now that are really in a freeze state because they're not sure what to do with these uncertain times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you might feel numb. You might feel kind of like, where you can't really think.
Foggy, for sure.
Foggy. And so like you're out of sorts, but you're not really sure why. So it can feel like that. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people may know why they are feeling this way, but they don't know maybe how to calm themselves, or they don't know, they don't know how to calm themselves in troubling times. What would you say is a good place to start with calming oneself during, again, a time period that is dysregulating?
Yeah. Well, part of the issue with that is you feel you don't have any control, especially when it's happening, kind of in our environment, or when it's happening, with something that we can't really control. And so the best thing is to try and pull yourself out of that environment if you can, as much as you can, and tune in. There's ways that you can ground yourself, which means basically is noticing your feet on the ground. If I invite everyone who's watching to notice their feet on the ground, all of a sudden you notice your feet, whereas before, a moment ago, you weren't. And that connects mind and body, and so that can help. Also, if you're sitting down, notice your body against the sofa. Notice if the sofa is soft or hard, or the chair. That's another way to ground. Looking around, orienting. So very slowly you move your head from right to left, and you just notice your environment. If you're looking out a window, how many trees do I see? Or if you're looking in the house, what are the things on the wall? I've got 3 paintings. That puts you in the here and now, and that can really calm the nervous system.
That's a good one. Wow.
Yeah. Sometimes for example, if you're driving and you start to feel dysregulated, whether it's or anxious, some people have, get a little scared with driving, start to read, read restaurant signs, read license plates, because when you engage the thinking part of your brain, you can't shoot into anxiety. You might still feel anxious, but it won't cause you to feel completely out of control because you're engaging the thinking part of your brain.
So would that be also doing something like, I don't know, mathematics or something that would encourage you to get into that left brain?
Exactly. It encourages you to use the thinking part of your brain, because otherwise, literally, when we get very emotional, whether it's excitement or anger or, fear, the thinking part, if this is the model of the brain and this is the prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of the brain literally goes offline, and we're just coming from our emotions.
Yes.
And that's where that term, I didn't mean what I said. In that moment, if my thinking brain has popped off, I really don't know what I'm saying right now, but that's why we need to catch ourselves and remove ourselves before we get to that place, because in that place, we truly have no control. That's not to excuse the behavior, because I'm still in control of pulling myself out of it, before I get there. But in that moment, yes, I've lost all control.
Can you talk to everybody about breathing? Is there a special type of breathing to do?
Yes, you can also do that. There's a lot of tools. The same tool's not going to always work. And that's why it's great to keep a lot of tools in your tool belt. breathing can always be helpful, but understanding that the in-breath stimulates the sympathetic nervous system.
Would you explain what that is?
Yeah, it's the active one. It's the fight flight. It's the, and breathing out stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest part of the nervous system. So that's why they always recommend that you breathe in 5 counts, hold it for 4, and then breathe out 8 counts. So your out breath is longer than the in breath. And so with the out breath, you're stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system, which will start to calm you down.
So that's a tool that people can use right now.
Cool. Yeah. So just remembering that the out breath has to be longer than the in breath. That's all. And you can do whatever count you want.
Boy, Shirley, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on affirmations?
Affirmations can be very helpful. They won't necessarily in and of themselves change anything, but our thoughts can really affect how we feel. So when we say something, it can change. It can really shift our mood. And I think that
absolutely
can be so powerful.
Absolutely. There's something about during these times, coming up with some really powerful affirmations, and maybe, start by identifying a specific area of concern, or maybe some reoccurring worries. Like you start to identify that, and then keep the affirmation really like concise and clear and in the present tense.
Yeah.
And that's really important. Because right now there's such a fear of the unknown. And so people, a good one might be something like, I trust in my ability to navigate uncertainty. Those kind of things.
Yeah, that's exactly. I love that you're saying that, because, happy people or people that have, are confident and secure, that doesn't mean they don't feel
right,
regulated or
good point.
At times or scared at times. They just know that they will be able to get through it.
Exactly.
They just know that. So it doesn't mean they don't feel things.
Right. That is so That is so true.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, Shirley. I was thinking about this time period that we're in, and I started looking and thinking, like, where does wisdom come from? And wisdom comes from, because I've talked about this from a spiritual standpoint.
Yeah.
Wisdom comes from our past, like what has gone on in the past. And as you remember, when I was in grad school, I was the only existentialist in grad school. I was an existentialist. I mean, who was an existentialist during that? Most people were studying cognitive behavior or narrative or pop psychology, and I'm out there with, as an existentialist. I mean, think about, I was already preparing for this time, which really is pretty funny if I think about it. But I was really thinking about existentialism today, because existentialism is the philosophy that we are responsible for creating purpose and meaning in our own lives. And there, Jean-Paul Sartre was the, an ultimate existentialist. And he would say that individuals are completely free to create their own meaning in life, even in the face of a seemingly absurd world, which is what we have right now, placing a heavy responsibility on personal choices. And so when I think of that, I think that every moment we can make a choice, whether that choice is I'm going to go down the negative road, or a choice could be I'm going to use one of Dr. Shirley's tips and I'm going to orient to see where I am. How am I feeling? Do you know, like, there are a lot of tips that we didn't have way back in the day here.
Yeah. A lot of tips that people, frankly, just from a neurobiological standpoint, we didn't know.
We didn't know.
Yeah, we didn't know that they worked. I mean, there's one that I actually ran across that I think is so helpful, and it's very tangible. You put your finger in your ear, you push down, and just in pushing down, you can feel the nervous system calm. And then you twist it in your ear.
I've got these things in my ear, I can't do it. But
right. And then you do the same to the other side. So first, you don't poke your finger too deep in your ear, but right at you push down, that alone. Oh my God, I feel it. And then you just twist.
And it's very calming?
It's very calming. And that just kind of, and again, when we're dealing with real things, don't expect that if you do one of these tools that all of a sudden you're going to feel calm, forever. You're not. In that next moment, maybe you might feel dysregulated again, but know that that moment right before when you calmed yourself down was still just as real. And it interrupted the anxiety loop. And every time you interrupt that, you're stimulating other parts of the brain. So don't think that it was all for nothing if in the next 5 minutes you're dysregulated again or upset.
Right. Oh, yeah. Shirley, that's so important.
Yeah.
I love these tips that you're giving. Talk to everybody about what a body scan is.
It's a type of, we can say like, we can call it a meditation if we want to, but there's wonderful ones. You can find them everywhere, and all the apps and on YouTube. And a body scan just basically goes through every part of your body. So if you start with your toes, tighten them and relax them. And then your ankles. And sometimes you think, okay, how can I tighten my ankles? But you imagine it. Tighten the ankles, relax. And then you go to your legs, to your the back of your legs, the knees, your thighs, your buttocks, your tummy, your back. And you go through every part of the body. By the time you get to your head, or whether you could start with your head or go down to your toes, you're a lot more calm because you tense and you relax. And so you actually get to feel. Sometimes we don't know that we're actually in a tense pose and we're literally walking around.
Right.
Like this. Sometimes I realize it myself and I'm like, okay, calm your shoulders, Shirley.
Right.
Calm it down, So we don't realize that we might be tense. So when we do that exercise where we tense purposefully and release purposefully, we might notice, oh, wow, I was tense the whole time. Yeah.
That's a good one. Oh, I love that one. What about water awareness? I've heard about this, about splashing water.
That's another one that just kind of, it's almost like something to focus on, it almost like, it wakes you up, but it also be calming.
Okay.
So that's a good one too, that people use, just putting cold water on your face.
Sometimes I do that washing the hands. If I'm feeling at all like, okay, I just need to go take a break, I'll just sit and wash my hands. And it really does change the energy.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. That can be also part of mindfulness. Like even day-to-day stuff, like even washing dishes. If you really get into it, what does the water feel like? What do the suds feel like? What does the plate that I'm holding feel like? What does the sponge feel like? And you're really mindful in doing these activities, and it could be anything. All of a sudden you're right there and you're in the here and now. Sometimes we don't realize how in our mind we're either in the past or we're in the future,
And again, these are dysregulating times.
Yeah.
And so people are either in their past or they're trying to figure out the future.
Right.
And any which way, it's leaving people in a funny place. And I've noticed, and I don't know if you've noticed this, Shirley, with the energy, I've noticed so many people falling and having accidents. Have you seen that?
Yeah, because you're a lot more distracted. You're not in the here and now.
Exactly.
And so you miss the step, or you're not walking with the same kind of amount of mindfulness. Yeah, absolutely. The more we're not in the here and now, the more accident prone we can be.
Well, and existentially is all about, it's funny you would say that, Shirley, the here and now. Yeah. That's literally what it is, to be in the moment and be present in the moment.
Yeah.
And have responsibility for being present in the moment.
Right.
And
it's practice.
It's a practice.
If you've lived, like I lived dissociated my whole life. So it's.
Well, let's talk about that. We'll talk about what dissociated means, because a lot of people may not be aware of the term.
I always, I realized as I was doing my work that it was a combination of things, but I always thought as a Pisces, you're always living in, Neverland. I'm always dreaming about stuff, and I could sit for hours and just dream. I'd be in Tahiti, or I'd be, wherever I was. And so that's not being in the here and now. That's not being present, and
so you would disassociate.
So also when I come from neglect, my parents were always there, but just not interacting. And so I would just pop out into my own little world. And so that, again, your brain is so used to doing that you don't even realize you're doing it as an adult. Like we've always joked how my memory is so bad, but when you kind of live in a dissociated state, you're not in the here and now, so you're going to miss things. And it's so interesting because most of my patients go, my God, you've got the best memory. But my daughter and all my family believe I have the worst memory.
Yeah.
What I realized, well, right, you too. What I realize is when I'm in session, I am so focused.
Totally. Isn't it funny how you can remember something from 20 years ago in a session with somebody? Oh, no, I remember your mother was this. And they'll be like, what? You remember my mother? Oh, yeah.
If I told you how many clients go, my God, your memory is so great. They're like, oh, yeah, the girl you dated 2 years ago, her name was Susan.
Right.
Like,
it's really weird, Shirley, but that's so true with therapists that you have this pocket of memory there that's
because you're so hyper focused.
Yeah,
in your day-to-day life, I may not, and I've done a lot of work, so for the most part, I am present. But sometimes my brain is just so used to that I'll just go off, and so I won't remember things. So part of what I do for myself is I write everything down. If I want to remember it, I will write it down, and I'm a lot more of a visual learner, so it'll be there. So I've learned to accept it and work with it. But it really is a sense of, if your brain is used to popping out, that's how you're going to live. And so then many times, unfortunately, when I work with couples, the other couple might think, well, you don't care enough, that's why you don't remember. And it's really not. It really is a nervous system, piece. And so if you understand it from that level, if that's what's happening, you can depersonalize. It's not because this person doesn't care about me. It's because this person lived dissociated their whole life, either because of trauma or because of chaos or because of neglect. And that's what their brain is used to doing. So there can be a little bit of compassion. It might still annoy you, but there's a little bit more compassion for it. And then you can help the person. Hey, I really need you to pay attention. On Saturday, we're going to go and have dinner with whatever it may be. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Boy, it's so important what you just said, Shirley. And it's really interesting because I'm thinking that during these times that we're living in right now, that people will get disassociated. They'll disassociate. They'll be in their old wounds of trauma will come up. And speaking of trauma, tell us about somatic experience and trauma.
Somatic experience is a type of therapy where somatic just means body. It took me such a long time to figure that out. It's such a fancy word for body, so to experience things in the body, that's all it means. And trauma is held in the body. That fight or flight energy where something overwhelmed our nervous system, the brain goes into fight or flight. We're not able to, even victims of an assault or something. I have so many people feeling so guilty. Why didn't I just leave? And then sometimes we can judge people, why didn't they just run away when they had the chance? When your brain goes into fight or flight and then freeze, your brain will decide without your awareness what's going to save your life, because that is the biggest role. The biggest job of the brain is to keep the host alive. So if in that moment I'm about to get assaulted and my brain, the lower parts of my brain, not my thinking, says freeze and sit still, do not move, that's going to save your life, then that's what the host will do. That's what I'll do without thinking. So to judge that afterwards, I'm going to caution everyone to not trust that the brain did exactly what it was supposed to do to save your life. And so that energy of the fight or flight doesn't just disappear now because the threat is over. It stays stuck. And that's where the work, somatic experiencing, that type of therapy works, because you'll be in my office and you're sharing with me a story of something that happened, even an argument with your boss or something, right? And I'll notice your body, doing something, or I'll ask you, as you're sharing that story with me, what are you noticing inside? And you might say, well, my heart started to beat a little faster. So that tells me that it's still dysregulating. You're not with your boss right now. You're telling me, but your body is still reacting as if. That lets me the energy hasn't fully dissipated, hasn't fully completed. And so then that's the way that we work. So then we'll go from there and I'll help complete that energy so it doesn't have to stay stuck in the body.
Wow. I think it's such an important therapeutic tool to have in your box.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It has to be almost, because talking about something is so important to understand where something came from, why I react the way I do. But sometimes the talk alone won't help heal it.
Right.
Yeah.
I've never thought that was enough in therapy. I never thought it was enough. I've always known that we need a lot of tools. Can you describe the VU technique, the breathing technique, the VU?
Yeah. It's very similar to the OM You know, when you go and you do it like that, your diaphragm vibrates. So
Yes.
Dr. Peter Levine, who created somatic experiencing, just uses VU because he lived in Berkeley by the Bay. And so he would say he would hear the boats coming in and making that noise, you know, when they come into the harbor. And so he just that, but it's no different than the Om. And you take a deep breath, and on the breath out, you make that sound, and you notice your diaphragm vibrating, and it relaxes all of your viscera. It relaxes your intestines. It relaxes your stomach. It relaxes everything. And you make that sound all the way until your out breath goes out, and wait until your body organically takes in another breath. And he suggests to do it 3 times and wait. And most of the time when you do it, I do it when I remember I try to do it every night just to kind of relax my whole nervous system before I go to bed. And sometimes you feel tingling. I feel a lot of tingling in my belly area when I do it.
You know, that's a good tip for people to do also right now.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Because you could do that during the day if you needed to at any time, and especially before you go to bed. That's a great way.
Yeah, you can do it when you wake up in the morning. You can do it at any time. You know, you get a little stressed out at work or you hear something that stresses you out. You don't have to do it very loud. You can even do it to yourself. When you do it loud, you can really feel the diaphragm vibrate, Yeah, but you can go to the bathroom and do it. Yeah.
Shirley, a question for you. How do you complete the energy of if you in somatic therapy? How do you know when that energy is completed out of your system?
Well, in somatic experiencing therapy, we use a lot of imagery. The power of imagery isn't a woo-woo thing, it's because the brain doesn't know the difference between real or imagined. That's why when we bring up an image that's calming, our whole body calms because the body will react to it. So many times what we do is I will ask people, if when you were 5 years old and this happened to you and you could have done anything you wanted to do, even if it's sci-fi, even if it's, I remember when I was doing my work and my sister had done something that was really upsetting. And so she asked me that question and I love the Incredible Hulk. He was my favorite, growing up. So I said, I would turn into the Incredible Hulk and I would have him grab her and throw her against the wall, all this stuff. And she goes, okay, imagine doing exactly that, and sometimes some people are horrified, but it's just a metaphor for the anger. It's not something that says anything about you or that you would actually do that. And I literally felt my arms tingle and my legs tingle.
And that's a release, isn't it? When you feel that
release. Yeah. Sometimes your stomach will gurgle. That's a nervous system release. Sometimes you'll belch. All that because that means that the parasympathetic nervous system is online. And so now your digestion can move.
Wow. Is that the same with hiccups?
You know what? That's a good question. I'm not sure. It might be. Hiccups might be a release too, but I'm not sure. That's a great question. I'm going to ask one of my colleagues. Okay. But yeah, because, when we're in fight or flight, the energy isn't going to go to the stomach and digest the sandwich. Who cares? The energy needs to stay in the big muscles so I can be ready to fight or run. And so many people who grew up, with that have a lot of gastrointestinal issues because they were never relaxed enough to digest the food the way it needed to be. So then 30 years of that, 40 years of that, 50 years of that, you're going to start having gastrointestinal issues.
Isn't it amazing how all of this plays out in the body?
Oh, it
all
does.
The stress that we have.
It does. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And who is it? It's Louise Hay. I was looking over because my bookshelf is there. She has a wonderful book that ties, physical issues with a possible emotional tie-in of what you need to work on.
She was so far ahead of her time.
She really was, wasn't she?
Wow. What do you think about journaling, Shirley?
I think that's really helpful because it really helps to get what's in here out on paper. Mm-hmm. And for people who have a lot of anxiety, even for people who don't, but that can really help calm because I don't feel like I need to keep it all in here. And sometimes, when we journal, we kind of allow the mind just to do whatever, almost like free associating. And sometimes when you read back what you've journaled, it can be quite interesting and quite healing.
Quite powerful.
Yeah.
It is. One of the things too that I think is really important during these times is, if you can, to go out in nature and spend some time in nature. And when you were talking about getting grounded, I can't do it now because it's too darn cold here, but to take off my shoes and just wander on the grass or wander on sand or anything, because it's a release of energy, and it's really good to drain the negative energy out. And so walking barefoot is great if you can do that. And then walking outside, just looking at the trees, looking at the stars, looking at the clouds, looking at water, anything in nature.
Yeah. Nature can be really, really calming.
It's really calming. What do you think about volunteering for helping others during a time period that we're in right now, like an act of service?
Yeah, I think that's wonderful too. It really helps to feel like you're doing something, like
taking energy to do that, or taking action.
Right. When the fires were here in LA, we were volunteering, and helping out.
Well, and you guys did a lot, actually.
Yeah. The partner did more than I did, but yeah. So it kind of helps you feel. Again, it's that the brain. We're a storytelling species because it helped to make sense of things. We felt more in control, and not the bad kind of control, not controlling, but more in control of ourselves. And so when we're helping, we feel like we're doing something and we're helping others, and that can help people feel a little bit more in control, which will always calm the nervous system down.
And it can also help with practicing gratitude. I think that's going to be really important during these times. Even the littlest of things that you have gratitude for in these challenging times. Because I think that when you do that, it changes the brain chemistry too. When you're in a positive state of mind, it changes everything.
Right. Well, we naturally have a negativity bias in the brain.
Again, talk about that.
Yeah, because the brain is, again, all about survival. That's all it cares about. So in the Neanderthal days, I needed to remember that the gray cave was the one that killed my buddy. And the white cave, who gives a shit? Yeah, we had fun. It was a great time. But right? So you have to remember the stuff that might kill you.
Yeah.
The negative stuff. And so we have a bias to remember that. And so when we talk about gratitude journals and it just even bringing up, gratitude, it's because it helps balance that negativity bias.
Yeah. Does that explain why some people are so negative, Shirley? Does it come out of that state?
Well, because then if you have a traumatic childhood, or if things happen a lot, not so great things happen a lot, then all of a sudden, the big focus is on all the negative stuff. It's why your kid only remembers the one time you missed her play.
Oh yeah.
Or the one time you missed her game or his game.
True.
But every other time you went, but they'll remember that one because
that's
the one that hurt. And that's the negativity bias.
Is that the truth? Now, this is interesting. Laura writes, my whole family of generations always had gastrointestinal problems. Would this be a family trauma history continuing? Oh, yes.
Absolutely. They also say that we store grief in our, in our tummies, in the gastrointestinal. And grief doesn't necessarily mean the passing on of someone. Grief can be, I didn't get what I needed. And I feel and there's so much grief to that, as a child. So that can, they say that immune disorders and gastrointestinal issues, not, of course, everything, but a lot of the time they can be due to unhealed trauma.
I did not know that. I always think of the lungs as holding the grief.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. That's fascinating. And it's interesting because she was talking about generational, and Shirley and I and Kellee Gonia have a big event coming up, everybody, called the Roots of Healing. Shirley and Kellee and I have worked together for years now, and we've done everything online. But this time we're going to do it in person on June 20th to the 23rd in beautiful Burbank, California. And I'd love for all of you to be a part of this. And Shirley it's alongside Kellee Gonia and Shirley, and we're going to be diving into ancestral healing, family constellation therapy, somatic work, and then I'm going to be talking about the spiritual connection and helping everybody to release the patterns that are no longer serving them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's going to be in person in a very intimate setting. We're going to take, I think, 36 people. And Carrie's
Yes.
going to be doing family constellation, and Shirley's going to be going to be doing mind body awareness and shadow work.
Shadow work. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to explain a little briefly what shadow work is?
Well, shadow work is, it's just things that we repress that brought us shame or that people made us feel shame about. And it doesn't necessarily have to be negative. Like in the times of Freud, when he talked about the shadow, it was always something negative, like like an addiction or something that you keep hidden because it's very shameful, But Carl Jung said no. It can also be. It doesn't have to be. It's not always something negative. It could be shame about wanting to feel connected, wanting to feel love. If you were brought up with neglect, that can bring up shame. And so you repress that and you pretend like you're fine. Now everything's fine. I don't need it. That could be part of your shadow. So it'll be really interesting to kind of discover what our shadow is. So if nothing else in that time, we can bring it to conscious awareness. We can only work through things that we're conscious of. Kind of an obvious statement, but.
Well, no, it's really funny that you said that, because I know so many people that you would think that they would be conscious of certain things and they are not. It's amazing to me, and the shadow is there. I mean, everybody's got one, and I think it's going to be coming out more and more now. Yeah. But if you want to join us, it's going to be an extraordinary experience, actually, with everybody. And we're going to have a VIP section, and we're going to be doing dinners together, and we're going to do breakfast and lunch, and we're going to be breaking up into groups of 10. And when we break up into groups of 10, you'll be with me, and then you'll be with Shirley, and you'll be with Carrie. Yeah. And for me, I'm going to be doing a lot of readings and talking about everybody of, why did they incarnate? What's going on here? So anyway, it's going to be a really special experience. So if you can join us, and it's at the best hotel. You haven't been to that hotel yet, have you?
I have not.
Amarano? Oh my God, it's one of my favorites. In fact, James was there with me for my book signing. He loved the hotel so much. He brought Pearl. It's a dog friendly. He brought Pearl, and oh my God, he thought it was the greatest hotel ever. It really is a great hotel. A lot of great restaurants around too. It's just, and we're going to do a really fun, we're going to have a cocktail reception, and then we're going to have a really fun experience at Shauna's at the Crystal Shrine in Burbank too. So it's going to be really fun.
Which is beautiful. It's a wonderful, wonderful shop. Yeah. No, I can't wait. It'll be so fun. It'll be very intimate.
It's going to be intimate. It's going to be great. Now, also, Lynn says listening to music is a great way to reset. Shirley, what do you think? Because you are the music queen.
I am. Well, music, the auditory processing centers of the brain are right next to the amygdala, which is the threat detector of the brain. So music can shift your state in a moment, in a second.
So true.
So if you're feeling really down, listen to something that's a little uplifting.
Yeah.
That kind of gets you moving. Yeah. If you're really scared, listen to something soothing. Body movement too. Getting up and dancing, moving your body. For people who tend to kind of, down-regulate or be in the free state, you don't have a lot of movement. So even, moving as you walk to the bathroom or turning on music that allows you to move, that is always very helpful.
That's a good one. Laurel Davies says, actually, your spirit guides bring forward things from the conscious mind that may not be aware of, as it does through dreams. Absolutely, Laurel. Our guides are always aware of everything that's going on. They know where we're blocked. And sometimes things will come through in dreams to give us some form of awareness. I think the guides, their hope is that we become fully awake here, fully conscious.
Yeah.
They work hard on that.
It's funny though. Someone told me, I don't remember if it was you, Kel, maybe it was, where you have to ask your guides. Don't expect that they know what you need just because there's that direct connection, because they're not going to necessarily interfere.
They're not going to interfere because we have free will. However, they're going to give us a lot, like signs along the way, like don't go down that road. I've told you 1,000,000 times. There they go. Yeah. It's like, it's kind of a funny thing, but it's so true. Music is a wonderful, way to help with any of this. anything. Reading is good too. In fact, Shirley, there is a new book, and I am so excited to get this book. I'm so excited. It comes out tomorrow, and it's by Richard Rohr. Do you know who Richard Rohr, R-O-H-R? He is an incredible,
No.
he's a spiritual writer, and he wrote a book, and it comes out tomorrow, called The Tears of Things, Prophetic Wisdom for an Age of Outrage. And it's from anger to sadness, and ultimately why we're here on earth, which is to have compassion. And I've been saying this a lot, Shirley, but during when life is easy, it's easy to be spiritual. But when life is, as we're going, cattywampus, it makes it more challenging to be spiritual. And yet this is the time for spirituality.
Yeah.
This is it.
And I wouldn't suggest to kind of ignore our emotions. So many people say, well, I shouldn't get angry about that. But emotions just show up.
Right.
We can't, shouldn't or wouldn't, or, if you're angry, you're angry. What we have absolute control over is how we react to our emotions, the behavior. Not always easy, but we do have control over that, right?
Well, I'd like to say most of the time, Cheryl.
Well, and that's where these tools come in. Oh my God, I'm so angry right now. I feel like a volcano erupting in my tummy. Okay, what can I do? Let me take a few steps. Let me go walk outside. Let me listen to music. And so finding a way to help, regulate yourself, because the angrier you get, the less control over your behavior you're going to have. Right. But also let yourself feel it, so, wow, I'm being really angry right now. What just triggered me? Oh, I heard that, on TV or something, and sit with it. Bring to mind an image for what the anger looks like. Many times for me, it would look like an erupting volcano. So I would just sit with that image and let it erupt and continue to see it in my mind, the image. And all of a sudden it would start to dissipate. Wow. So it's not about just shutting down your emotions and trying to do something else or distracting yourself. It's also validating the emotions. The neuroscientists have a saying, name it to tame it. Right. When we name our emotions, they actually start to dissipate on their own. Wow, right now I'm feeling so sad. Oh, what does that feel like? God, my heart feels so heavy. So maybe putting your hands on your heart so you can feel like you're holding your heart while you're having that feeling.
Yeah.
So it's to validate our emotions, not just try to shift them or ignore them or,
It's interesting. The retreat is in Burbank, California. If people are asking, Burbank, California. Yes. Where is this retreat? Burbank, California. Well, Shirley, you are so wonderful. I'm so excited that we're going to be together in June. I love working with Carrie. And I also have a class with Prajna Avalon, who's an incredible healer. I know, you know Prajna.
Yeah, I love it.
It's called Empowered Living with Autism. And so we're covering the basis here. Yes. We're covering everything here. But we're going to be teaching a transformative 3-hour journey with Prajna Avalon. And it's going to be working with giving you insight and spiritual guidance and practical tools for navigating life with autism. Isn't that a great picture of her?
That is a wonderful picture. Yeah. I love it. And I love it.
Great? Yeah. Well, apparently the butterfly is a sign for autism. So I thought that was a great one to know. Yeah. Yes. And so this is going to bring all kinds of understanding and support and helping people thrive. So if you have autism, or if you know somebody, or if you have a family relative or a child, please join our class. It's a 3-hour class on Zoom, and it's April 5th at 11 a.m. Central Time. So join us for that. I would love that. And then the last thing, I'm doing another class, Cheryl, because that's not enough, because I'm not busy enough. And it's a Crystal Connections class. It's a crystal class on April 26th with a dear friend, Julianne Siegel. And it's really fun to work with Julianne. And we're going to talk about crystals and feng shui with crystals and crystals. Surely you got to take this class. It's going to be so fun. Oh my God. Because I'm a crystal freak of nature.
Yes, you
love crystals so much. So join us on April 26th, because that's going to be fun. And I have to tell you, Shirley, I did a thing the other day called the Power of 10. And I brought 10 people in on a Zoom, and I did readings for everybody, and it was really great. So I'm going to do it again in April. I don't have a date yet, but I'm going to do it again in April.
Oh,
Everybody.
fun. So you have 10 people on the Zoom, and what you do readings for each one.
I do whatever it is that they're looking for. Some people need guidance. Some people need a message, and everybody gets 10 minutes with me. So it's fun. It is. You should do that. Yeah, you should do that. And your birthday's coming up.
I know.
Right before the eclipse. Powerful time, Cheryl, of transformation.
Hence the snake I found.
Okay, so tell everybody about that.
We'll talk about that. Well, I am deathly afraid of snakes, and I know a lot of people are.
No, she's over the top.
Mine takes it to the only panic attack I've ever had was when I saw a snake. Yeah. And they did tell me, which makes so much sense to me. Somebody told me once, I was doing a past life reading, and they said that in one past life, I was put in a coffin full of live snakes, and that's how they killed me.
That would make sense here. Because yours is worse than anybody's I have ever seen before.
Panic that I feel when I see, and I don't care if it's poisonous, not poisonous, garter, tiny, big, it doesn't matter. The interesting thing is they fascinate me. So National Geographic, back in my day, or now Animal Planet, if it's on snakes, I'm right there watching. They fascinate me. But if they're not on TV and in my area, I go into panic. So that explanation makes sense to me because it's so absurd. My reaction. And so I saw one in my backyard.
It was Saturday, right?
Yeah. Now I've lived in the hills since 2002. I have never seen one. The gods have always spared me. I saw one. I went into
it. Was long. She sent me a picture of it. It was huge.
I went into a huge panic attack. I didn't know what to do. And I called my partner who's in Canada, and he called the neighbor, and the neighbor came and took care of it. It was, and then I go hiking once in a while, and I'm like, why do I go hiking? Because, I saw these two little girls on the side taking pictures, and I go, oh, they're looking at a snake. So I just took off running.
Well, Shirley, I was hiking with Charlene and Shauna actually in Runyon Canyon, and a rattlesnake went right in front of us. And Charlene just kept walking. Sorry, Charlene. But she did. She kept, and Shauna and I were both panicked. We heard the rattle.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, no fun. No fun. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, Shirley, thank you so much for being on tonight. I'm so glad that you were with me tonight. And I'm
so welcome. I love doing this with you.
I know. We always have so much fun. And so everybody join me on Thursday night. I'm going to be talking about the violet flame this Thursday. And then next Monday, I'm doing a show with Liz Cook. And Liz and I are going to be talking about the eclipses and doing tarot readings about the energy of the eclipse.
Oh, interesting.
When are you fascinating? Monday night, Cheryl, next Monday. Just like a week from today, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so thank you, Shirley. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Bye. So lovely to be here.